Hi, hello. It's been a while since I've done like a sit down in my kitchen kind of video. This one is a really exciting one and probably like one of the most requested like recently in my Instagram DMs and stuff. I recently did a post on Instagram about my reverse dieting phase a few weeks ago. Ever since that I've had so many messages, so I just thought I'd put it into a video. This is just my approach to reverse dieting. I'm just showing what's worked for me. We're all completely unique, so it's not like a one size fits all by any means, just my approach and my experience. So reverse dieting is a nutritional concept that is used to repair your metabolism with a goal of increasing your calories. So first things first to mention, like reverse dieting is definitely not for absolutely everyone and generally comes down to people in like specific categories and like circumstances. I'm just going to start by straight away saying this is definitely not suitable for anyone who has an unhealthy relationship with food tracking. I would not advise this approach whatsoever. It's usually quite a suitable approach for someone who say has been in like a cutting phase on lower calories for a prolonged length of time. It's a really popular approach in like the bodybuilding industry. So say if someone's been like competition prepping, they'll really often use reverse dieting like post show. Or another example would be someone who has tried to diet for say months or like even potentially years, or just not fuel their body for like a prolonged period of time. That sort of person may aim to reverse diet their way back to a higher maintenance of calories. And then another example is say if you feel like you've really hit like a plateau. So it's say if you're someone who goes to the gym really regularly, you're training hard and you've been in like a cutting phase and you can't get rid of like that extra last bit of body fat, and you're just feeling as though like your body's stagnated. What might have happened in this sort of circumstance is your body may have gone through a lot of metabolic adaptation to compensate for the reduced energy intake. At this point, you're most probably completely ready to increase your calorie intake to prevent your metabolism from slowing down. They're just a few categories, as obviously everyone is so unique, like we're all on different personal journeys completely. So make sure that whatever you do, make sure it suits you and your lifestyle. That's the most important thing. Don't try and sort of imitate anyone else's complete approach, because what works for me might not work for Sandra next door. What works for Sandra next door might not work for me. In terms of like my actual personal journey, I did a cutting phase that you guys will be well aware about. I did quite a lot of videos on my YouTube about that, where I was on lower calories. Since then, I've been reversing my calories gradually from that point. In terms of metabolisms, we all have such different varying metabolisms because we just have completely different lifestyles. Metabolic rate is just how quickly your body is burning calories. Say if you're someone with a slower metabolism than normal, you can generally feel a lot more fatigued, mood swings, sort of increased food craving, and overall kind of difficulty losing weight. But ultimately, a slow metabolism is not permanent. With changes to your nutrition, lifestyle, just the way you sleep, all these things, you can really make just a better process. So how does it work? When your body is consistently in a calorie deficit and it doesn't have enough fuel coming in on a regular basis, it eventually starts conserving energy by burning fewer calories. So I just like to describe it similarly to a car. So obviously your car's not going to move if you're not putting the fuel into it. Just like we add food as fuel into our bodies to keep our metabolism burning. Our bodies are just constantly trying to keep a state of homeostasis, which means running efficiently and just adjusting to so many changes in the environment. And of course, there's so many considerations that play a huge part in our body weight. It's not just what we eat, it's how we move throughout the day. It's our sleep patterns that regulate our hormones, stress levels, health conditions, all of that. Of course, whilst maintaining like a lower calorie diet can help with weight maintenance, over time your body can adapt and work less efficiently. So this just leads to long-term maintenance of weight loss can be much more challenging, and this is where reverse dieting can be a really good opportunity to sort of get out of like your metabolic rut. Like I mentioned earlier on, so say if you've met your weight loss goal or you stopped seeing weight loss after you've followed a reduced plan and feel like you just really plateaued, this could be a good time to try reverse dieting by slowly increasing your intake week by week and monitoring how you feel, how your body reacts. This way you can find out what calorie level and macro distribution will really work for you. It is a lot of trial and error, this whole process. That is the other thing. It is quite a lot of monitoring. How to make reverse dieting work for you. So first things first, let's start with tracking your nutrition and your workouts. I wouldn't recommend this approach if you're just not in the best mindset in terms of your health, fitness and nutrition. I would say really work on your mindset and getting your sort of like mental state. That is the main thing always. I wouldn't advise anyone to track their macros, calories, any of that if you're not in the right place. So with reverse dieting, I do think it's really important to know exactly sort of like what you're consuming and what sort of your energy output is daily to get a good sort of gauge for how to plan everything around that. So detailed trackers that I use is MyFitnessPal, and then just like my little kitchen scales for my nutritional side of things, and then just like barcode it in, really simple, and it's also a free app. And then the other thing that I use is like an app on my phone to track my workouts and put in like my reps, sets and all my weights, and that is honestly, that is such a game changer, like having that. So the reason why the category of like going into this from having done like some sort of cutting phase is just because it's really important to know what your macros or calories and intake were when you did that cutting phase or weight loss phase or whatever, so that you know your levels of what was working for weight loss in order to go ahead with this sort of process. And make sure whatever sort of info you're going off in terms of like your macros, like you've done that for sort of 4 weeks or more. It takes a month or so to see a consistent trend in our weight. But just as a real rough example, say if you're on cutting calories of 1900 calories and you were losing 1 to 2 pounds of weight loss per week, that was probably the right calorie level based on like your activity level. Say if that calorie stopped making you lose weight, that could be a good time to start increasing your calories gradually. In terms of slowly adding calories on, reverse dieting suggests adding between 50 to 100 calories per day for a week at a time, and then monitoring your changes. But that is just personal preference, like depending on sort of like what calorie level you are, like your starting point is. If to say after 1 week of adding 100 calories per day and you are still achieving weight loss, do that for 1 more following week. If you continue after that, add another 100 calories and see what changes. If your weight doesn't change after a few weeks, this is the point where you might have found your maintenance intake, and over time you should be able to increase your calorie intake without seeing huge spikes in your weight. I would experiment with your macros. Some people have more success from adding in more fat or carbohydrates, but that's just like completely dependent on whatever sort of like exercise patterns that you follow, or like whatever your training sort of methods are. Something else that I feel like I personally did not take serious and has really helped with everything, with my training, with my mindset, is actually like focusing on my sleep. Like this is something I've neglected for years and just never really considered like overly important. Getting a solid 8 hours sleep, wow, like that has changed everything for me. So when you don't get enough sleep, you can really sort of disrupt your hormone balances. Sleep deprivation is perceived by the body as an additional stressor. This can cause cortisol to increase and testosterone drop. So with getting higher quality sleep means that you spend more time in your REM sleep. Your REM rejuvenates your brain, your soul, just everything, and restores your body basically. So I use my Fitbit for my sleep. Like it's not 100% accurate, but I get a rough sort of guideline. There's loads of like sleep ways to measure your sleep as well. I think there's like this headband, I think it's called a Neura or something. Setting yourself like little bedtimes, I do think is so helpful, and you will notice such a big difference if it's something you've never really like focused on so much. Yeah, just some important things to mention with reverse dieting. It's one of those things I feel like what gets measured gets managed. If you are increasing your calories for the first time, like since doing a sort of cutting phase, work out what works for you and your lifestyle, like what you want to add in extra, like in terms of your meals and stuff, whether you want to make like bigger portions or add in more wholesome foods. I would say like just try to like if you're going to add like a meal in, make sure it's like whole foods rather than just like super high processed stuff. Be careful not to change absolutely masses, because that's where it can get a bit complex, because it is the sort of thing that you need to sort of manage closely in order to get any sort of results from it. Potential benefit of reverse training is because you're adding more energy into your body, you'll most likely feel much more fueled and improved recovery and performance like throughout your workouts, which is the best. Another sort of benefit could be greater weight loss in the future, potentially if you return to like doing a cutting phase or something. You might see like a better response from your metabolism to like the first time trying a cutting phase. And then just to sort of finish on, there are some potential challenges and downsides to reverse dieting, as there is a lack of research. It is an area that's not well studied. I think it also comes down to it being quite a challenging sort of concept to track, like I said, because there's so many sort of variables and whatnot. It's a lot of like trial and error. Whilst it does take a lot of work, like if you've got quite good attention to detail, like you can honestly get some really good results and just a great approach, which I personally have had a really good experience with. So yeah, that is everything that I wanted to sort of touch on in this video. I really hope that this has been a useful one. Let me know what you thought in the comments, and if you would like to see a few more like sit down videos, anything like that. I do really enjoy doing these ones as they're just all things that have helped me so much, and just nice to be able to share my experience and thoughts on it. If you haven't already, I'd love you to stick around by subscribing and joining the fam, and I will see you in the next video.